So welcome to the node.js Node API team meeting for August 27th, 2021. Before we get started, does anybody have any announcements they'd like to share?
Yeah, I have one. We released a new version for node.js API, the version 4.1.0. Essentially, in this new version, we added new type, maybe a class to handle pending exception when C++ exception disabled. We added wraps for cleanup books, and we made other minor fixes and as usual improved the test suite and documentation. So yeah, this was my announcement.
Great, thanks for that update and thanks for doing the release. Okay, any other announcements before we move on to the issues? Okay, sounds like not. I will share my screen here. So the first part is to look at the stale issues. So let's take a look there. I'll scroll down. I see we don't have any new ones, but let's just take a quick look to see at the ones that we've had. Okay, I don't see any more response from the originator on that one, so I don't know if there's anything else to talk about. Don't think so. Okay, let's look at the next one. So I guess that one we're still hoping for a response from the opener as well. And then let's look at this one. I think there has been some discussion while I was out the last couple of weeks on this one. Does anybody want to add context or? Maybe go ahead.
I'm thinking, what was it? I think we basically concluded that we can do symbol at least because the Hermes engine, if I remember correctly, treats like literals as literals. So there's nothing to reference, unlike V8, which treats everything as like a value, which can have a persistent and a weak reference. So we could potentially extend the ability to create persistent and weak references to symbols without much work at all.
Okay, so basically, yeah, I think I see it says we really only need symbol support, so that's what we should do, right?
Yeah, and I think we have it. If I remember correctly, symbols are treated as objects. Vladimir, I think, looked at that, and he concluded that symbols are treated as objects in Hermes, and so we have what we need because objects can have weak references.
So what's kind of the next step on that?
Well, I mean, we take the plunge, right? That's one possible next step, and then we extend it in core.
Right, to symbols.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I think that makes sense. Do we have I'm just wondering if we have a PR or anything tracking. So so if it's just like next step is to, I don't want to do that. Next step is for somebody to open a PR in core to extend support to symbols.
Yep.
Is it that it's extending it to symbols, or is it no longer blocking it on symbols?
No longer blocking it on symbols, yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Should just be no longer blocking it on symbols, right?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm just going to grab that and. So yeah, so whoever kind of gets to that first. Just sending myself a reminder to take a look at it if I have a chance, but if anybody else gets to it, go for it. Okay, so that's that one. Okay. So I think that was all of the stale issues. In terms of tracking issues for modules that have been ported, I don't think we've seen anything new. NPM. In terms of usage, looks like it's kind of still slowly tracking up. We've been up and down a bit, but I guess this might be partially because of new releases drive some new uploads or whatever, but that looks good. So nothing to discuss there. Creating the matrix of tested methods. Jack, I know you've been working on that. Do you have an update?
Yeah, so I think I've documented all the classes apart from thread state functions and type thread state functions. And I opened up a draft PR for I had a question about how we should test various function overloads for constructors for like stuff like thread state function where it has like a bunch of overloads. And I think Gabriel suggested to have like some sort of friend class, and I have it like a PR open for it. Just wonder if like I'm doing it right. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. So let's take a look there. Which PR is?
It's a third one. Yeah, that one. Yeah.
This one. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
So let's just. Is there a particular place I should go look to start with, or?
Yeah, I guess like.
I guess some of this is like where you're saying defined is testing.
Yeah. I like for now it's just from inside. I just placed like a friend class inside of the async worker class and like nowhere else. And just like want to see if I'm doing this right. Yeah, there it is. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And that's needed because, like, where's the piece of code where that's needed?
Sorry.
So where is the friend part needed within the test code?
The friend class.
Yeah, like you've got it that it's a friend. Where in the test code is it needed that it's the friend? Like just to.
Oh, I think because like we just want to like access. We want to make sure like the members are set it properly within the async worker without like going through all the processes of like I guess creating different async workers with different function overloads. So and so basically I just like inside of the actual napi.h, I placed the friend class there inside of the async worker, but added like surrounded it with like a macro saying, okay, if we're testing, so basically we're running the test suites, that's where we're gonna sort of include it, otherwise we don't. And right. Yeah.
What's the downside of basically having duplicates of the test with the different overrides?
Downsides?
It takes way too long to run. I think that was the thing, right? Because like especially.
Right. Okay. So that makes sense. Like if it's, I was just thinking like if unless there was something like that, why not just do that? But if it takes a long time to run, then I can see it.
Yeah.
So I guess Gabriel, is this what you had in mind, or?
Yeah, just a sec. Sorry.
Sure.
Yeah, basically, that was the idea, is to just use this friend class so that you can just plain old test just the state without having to go through the whole long test. We have a lot of like busy looping and that kind of thing, especially for the thread state function. So yeah, this looks good.
Now, are these build sources? These are all tests, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and this is like a define that will be set if you're building for testing, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just
Anybody? Go ahead.
make sure the define is like namespace, because like is testing, you know, if somebody includes this file, they might have a macro called is testing,
Okay.
you know, and then that will
Yeah.
that might confuse things. So maybe like make it more explicit, like no, that on API is testing. But other than that, I think it's okay.
So here I can put that in right here while we're talking. Oops. So maybe like is node API testing, is that?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it's either way, something that people are unlikely to have in their header files.
Okay. Okay, any other questions or things on that test front that you want to bring up?
Nothing on the like test fronts, but I just have like a random questions about thread safe functions. And on the doc for it, it says if an add-on creates additional threads, we require like NMP, evenv value and ref not to be called. I'm just wondering from like those threads that we created from the add-on. I'm just wondering why that is. Is it because like the process might exit and then the threads are still running, so it's like kind of messes up things, or is there like other reasons for that?
If I understood your question correctly, it's because some functions they call into the engine, right? And you are not allowed to call into the engine from secondary threads.
Okay.
And so then if you call those functions from a secondary thread, then you're breaking that convention, and the engine is probably going to react poorly and abort the whole program.
Okay.
So that's why we have the thread safe function to begin with, is that you can call into the engine from a secondary thread, but only through this mechanism.
Okay.
Yeah, it basically proxies your thing back to the main thread to do that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. Thanks.
I think I did have a question, like looking, we have all these issues, right?
Yeah.
And so these are ones which basically say, okay, we've covered. And like in this case, there's one which isn't covered, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so each of these is open for a class, and if it's all covered, it'll be closed, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I was just trying to understand this. So if I look at any one of these, yeah, there's always some gap. Okay, perfect. And then the idea is to add something for the ones that aren't, and yeah. Okay, so these are all good. If we had people who wanted to work on, you know, adding something, doing some work, all these are great ones because they're very specific about like, hey, here, fill in the array buffer test, right? Okay. Thanks. So let's go back to here, create test message. So yeah, unless you have any other questions, we can move on that one.
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. This is probably a good time to ask if Deepak, there's anything you wanted to discuss on the stuff you're working on.
Yeah. Hey, Michael. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, I have two pull requests. New pull request that you know, we can go over. It's very simple.
Yeah, let me just. I could type.
On the node add-on API. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. The first two one. One
Right.
is for if you open the second one. Yeah.
Sorry. Okay. Here we go.
Yeah. So that is just for allowing to give a build path in the in the test, so that we can even pick it up from a relative path. It does not the test pass, all the tests pass in this. If you are okay with so basically what I'm doing is in the one of the function parameters, I am passing in a relative build path and also defaulting it to a relative build path. Maybe the naming can be better there. It could be something like that that does not have a collision with any other environmental variables. Like it can be like an NAPI relative build path or something like that. But that's the whole idea. We just pass it in, and so what this enables us in the unit test the story that I'm working on, I'll be able to point at the generated binding.cc. Right? That I'm the intention of that PR was to generate a custom build into a different location inside the unit test folder. Right. So this way I'll be able to ask the test to run on top of that on top of that build.
Right. I'm wondering, would you want to override this part, or I guess this part always makes sense to have the like a build and a build type underneath.
Yeah. It is just right now everything is getting, I think, getting picked up right under the root folder.
Right. Okay. Yeah. The only question I wonder here, and I'll type it as does like including this slash make sense?
No, what happens is like if we are not passing in a relative build path, then right now we
yes, okay, right. Okay. Yeah, so that wouldn't work. So this could be, is relative build path, like it could be a hard-coded path too, right? Could it?
We are anyway, I think as far as I know, we are going to generate the build. Well, if you want to do any other path outside of the build directory, right, and outside of the source directory, outside of the Git repo, then I think even that can be done. Like we can step out of the repository and build it somewhere else. But I think mostly we are generating the build within the Git repo.
Right, I was just thinking about the name, like as relative build path, or if it could be an absolute path or whatever, like it's just.
Yeah, it could be made better. Yeah. Yes, that's true. That could be better ways of doing this. Yes, agreed. Yeah.
Wondering that if we can use path helpers in Node core instead of concatenating these paths directly in our string template, so that we can, like, say, it can work with any other systems. I'm wondering.
Right.
I'm not sure.
What do you mean?
Like use path.join instead of slash.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we can use path.join so that it is not an env dependent. That's true.
Right. Although I wonder why we're not running into trouble with these other slashes already, right?
Yeah.
Well, by my understanding, Windows has pretty good support for / nowadays, so that's probably why we're not running into this problem.
Right, but still probably makes sense. Suggestion. I'm just still wondering about the name, like, is something like build path prefix make sense, or?
Or build path root directory, build path, build root dir, build root dir.
What do people think?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, otherwise it seems like everybody's is comfortable with this one.
Okay. The other pull request that I have is for the unit test names, the first one.
Yep.
So I just attempted to change the unit, the file names, because most of the file names are not standardized. Like we have, so the challenge is that when we want to filter out and do the binding.js and create the export object from the each one of those tests are almost similar to the file names, right?
Right.
It would be easier if it is standardized this way, so that I can change from. I think this is not the camel case. I can change it to camel case. So I'm just looking for suggestions. But if it is in a case, say if this is in a camel case, right, where we have the underscore.
Yep.
So then I will be able to change it to standardized capital letters, remove and all the underscores removed, and then that would be the export object, and that would be easy to do the generate the binding.cc in our unit test filtering PR. So I just intended to change the names, but when I tried to push the code, the lint complained about
Okay.
about the changes. So I had to do a lint fix. If there is a way to bypass the lint fix, then that would be much better, because all I intended to do is just a file name. Is there a way to bypass linting?
I don't know. I think we might as well, if it's
Yeah.
just white space changes, we might as well, fix it now.
Okay.
It makes the diff bigger, but
Yeah, I was wondering about all the other changes, but if it's just the lint fix run, then
yeah,
then I have no problem too. So yeah. And so making it the dashes helps us because it groups them, or
having the dashes or the underscore helps me to generate the export object from within, right? Because if it is a continuous running string, I wouldn't know. The export objects are all capitalized, right? Async with an A caps and context with the C caps. It's a continuous string, but there is a capital letters in between. So it is easier for me this way to just change from one case, from a camel case to a capitalized format. To generate, that was just to generate the export object names to be placed in that can be placed in the binding CC, right? A newly generated binding CC, custom generated binding.cc file.
Maybe leave a comment somewhere that the changes are all white space for those files that are renamed, so as to appease the linter. Like what you just said, just write it down so we don't forget.
Yeah, as a comment in the
Oh, yeah, I'll do that.
The other thing I'm just not quite following how this rename in the name helps.
If you go to one of those files, if you go to the go to source, or even inside one of those files, click one of them.
Okay, how about view file?
And if you go to the bottom, the very bottom, if you run to the very bottom, the export. If you look at the export, the init that is exported, init array buffer. If you look at it, the array buffer, right? The A is caps and B is. The array buffer as a word has A caps and B caps, right? So what I'm doing is, once you provide a filter name, I'm going and generating the binding.cc. At that time, the binding.cc file should have all this, right? We are generating a custom binding.cc if we want to filter and run. In that case, I need this name, the init array buffer. That is a that should be a part of the binary compilation of the newly generated binding.cc, so that it can go and get all this. So that's the reason. All the files.
I see. So you're translating init array buffer into array buffer. Like you strip off the init and then you say array dash buffer, because I guess like the dash, it could still be translated into like array buffer.cc, right?
No, it's the other way around. From the file name, I'm trying to generate the init array buffer. Then the name init array buffer. So if it is array dash buffer, it's easy.
Okay, I get it. Right. So that gives you an easier way to figure out the capitalization.
Yes.
Got it. Okay, now I understand. Makes total sense. Okay, yeah, if you just comment it, like if you can, if it's almost like in the commit comment, you could update the commit to say, that changing the names, but then, for the auto generation, but then, also fixing the linter comment. Any other changes other than file name changes are fixing the linter, then it's probably good to go.
I'll mention all that in the comments. Yeah, I'll put that in the comments, and then I'll add a git the commit description as well.
Yeah, sounds good. And then maybe just give us an app ping in here saying, hey, I've done the update, so that we know to go back and go ahead and land it.
Okay.
Okay, sounds good. Anything else you want us to take a look and discuss on that front?
No. Once this is done, the other PR should be done pretty quick, like in a couple of days. Probably by the next meeting, we'll be able to review it. Yeah.
Sounds great. Thanks for working on it. It's looking good to see progress there.
Thanks.
Okay, so on to the next thing is enable debug testing for add-ons. I know I haven't done that. So now looking at issues, actually, this is the one I can bring up. I added this one. There's sort of an ask. Somebody's been working on a serial port.
I and Kevin started to review the work.
Okay, great.
Yeah, we suggested some changes. So they have a good start for this porting. And now, we try to act.
Okay, so should we just leave this open until that gets landed, or? Sorry, go ahead.
Now we suggested we suggested essentially to use async worker instead of the of calling the CAPI to do the same thing that async worker do, and then they they didn't check for the status, no, when they call the on Node API. So yeah, this is the what we did till now.
Okay, well, great. Let's just leave it on the agenda so that we, see if there's anything to bring up or discuss or anything, but I'll put that up at the top just as a better reminder. Okay,
I'm
great.
also looking at the PR, and I think moving to async worker might be like a big commitment on their part, because it's like a different way of writing the code, because you have to like organize something as a subclass of async worker, and that might be too big of a change for them. So what I suggested to them as an alternative to moving to async worker is to just use like nappy throw if failed, so as to process the return values, without migrating to like this different way of doing async work. So then they can still mix. I mean, the whole point of Node add-on API is that you can mix in plain old core Node API calls, right? And so if they're doing that, then that's great and it's okay and it's supported, but they should process the return values using the convenient macros that we provide, right? Which is this an API throw if fail. So that might be simpler for them. But yeah, the PR does look pretty good. It's pretty one-to-one with NAD.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thanks for everybody who started reviewing and commenting. I'm sure it's great to get them that feedback and help get that port made. Okay, so let's move on then to looking at any issues. So are there any issues in particular in Node API or core that people want to bring up? Take a quick look at, we've talked through some of the PRs at the top. And so I don't see anything too new there. I think that's all the new stuff seems to be stuff that would have been covered or created by team members here. Let's just take a look at Node. search is not. There we go. Okay. So there's the backport, and doesn't look like there's anything too new there either. So I guess, and if there's nothing else that people think we should discuss, we're probably at the end of the agenda.
Yeah.
Okay, well then, thanks for everybody for taking the time this week, and we'll see you in GitHub and talk to you next time.
Yep,
Bye.
Later.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, thanks everybody.
Bye.
Bye.